Welcome everybody to our webinar today. Our coach credential, what is right for you? It's going to focus on coach credentials and hopefully answer some of your questions. Just want to note that we are recording the session. So you will be getting an email afterwards with the recording. And I promise not to sing too loudly so that you don't have a horrible recording. Now I hear someone in the background. I'm going to ask if you can mute. If all of our participants can mute, that would be fantastic for the rest of us. Excellent, excellent. So without further ado, I guess I'll say it that way. I'm Rosa Edinga. I am a coach facilitator with Coaching Out of the Box. I have the privilege of being so. In addition to that, in my own coaching practice, I work with leaders at all levels in mostly the public sector and healthcare. So I'm going to see if I can move this. The technology gods don't seem to be working for me right now. Yay, there I am. I won't bore you with the writing that's on the slide. You can read it at your own leisure. But if you're, have a few minutes and want to go to the coachingoutofthebox.com website, not only do we have a bunch of resources that you can use, there's also the bios and information on not only myself, but my other wonderful facilitators of Coaching Out of the Box. So we are sort of really lucky. And what we have, I wanted to introduce Alison Hendren. Alison, I'm going to ask you to do your introduction. She's the CEO and the founder of Coaching Out of the Box, and we have the pleasure of having her for the whole hour, so we're excited. And so Alison, if I can get you to say a few words to start us off, and then we're going to jump in.
Hello, welcome, and hopefully everybody can hear me okay. The technology is hopefully working. Yes, I'm Alison Hendren, CEO and founder of Coaching Out of the Box, and you see the screen there. You can read all about me. But here's what I just want to say at the top of this webinar. There are three things. It is an incredibly exciting time for coaching. It's being highly recognized. More and more organizations and individuals are asking for it. And it's so great to see that awareness is growing. And so you're in the right place if you're wanting to get into coaching, because it's a great time, especially in our challenging times right now, where we are all navigating through massive, fast, constant change. And if there was ever a skill that supports that, it's coaching. Secondly, for those of you who are attending and those of you who registered, I want to acknowledge you, because you are doing what I believe is really important. You're ensuring that you hold a good credential, that you're professional, that you've had to go through rigor and standards and various and demonstrated various skills in order to achieve a credential. So woohoo for all of you, because you're absolutely on the right track. And thirdly, you get to experience us at Coaching Out of the Box. Some of you are already taking programs, purchase products from us at Coaching Out of the Box. Some of you are brand new. We hope that this experience will be of value to you, and that you will walk away saying, hey, these are great people. So, and we're sincere and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be quiet now and let Rosa take over and carry on with our webinar. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Alison. Some days I want to just bottle Alison's passion for this so that I can, have it with me at all times, take a sip out of it like a water bottle. Next, I have the pleasure of welcoming our program advisor at Coaching Out of the Box. Yay, there she is. Sandra, if you may, I'll get you to introduce yourself. You do that better than anyone else.
Sure. Hi, all. My name is Sandra Mall, and I'm the program advisor here at Coaching Out of the Box. I've been part of the Coaching Out of the Box team for a little over 3 years now, well-versed in all of our programs and our products, as well as the ICF requirements for credential, always happy to talk to you and help answer any questions that you may have or help you find information that you're looking for. Please feel free to reach out at any time. You can get me at advisor@coachingoutofthebox.com, or there is also a Calendly link showing on your screen where you can book a call.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandra. And I can attest to Sandra's incredible knowledge of everything coaching out of the box related and. So I would encourage you, if you have any questions afterwards, if you have questions about the programs, if to give her a phone call, to have a conversation. And she's lovely to speak to as well. So she'll answer all of the questions. So let's get into it. Let's get into why you're here. And I say that, but before we're going to do that, I'm going to ask you some questions because, you know, it's coaching and that's what we do. So before I get into the objectives for today, I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. So I am going to, if the technology trolls are looking good on me, I'm going to launch a quick poll. Very quick, 5 questions. And I'm just going to ask you to take a couple of seconds on each, answer some questions. This way we know who's in the room, and hopefully I can tailor some of those, some of our information to you so you get what you need. So I just want to make sure that everyone can see it and everyone's
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. The trolls, the technology gnomes are working for me. Yay. So I'm just going to I'm going to have it open for a couple more seconds. And then, ooh, I love this. I love this. I love this. Excellent. So I'm going to close it off in a couple more seconds. I know that some of you haven't voted, so I'm going to ask you to really quickly answer those questions. Excellent. So I'm going to close the voting or close the polling. And I thank you all for participating, for giving me a sense of who is in the room. Again, some of those questions were just around you. Are you in an organization and you just want to get those coaching skills stronger? Do you want to be a coach, like a full-time coach as a second career, as a side hustle, as someone call it? So about 60, oh, I pressed something. Sorry, technology trolls. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. Actually, I want to go back to the objectives because I think I pressed something wrong. Sorry, folks. What we want to talk about today is why hold a credential. What are the values of it? What can it give you? If it's valuable to you, which one? What to look for. And that's more about if you've decided to pursue coaching in whatever means, whether it's kind of on the, a lot of you are saying on that, want to pursue it as a practice. Who's going to support you to get there? What programs, what to look for in those programs of how to support you, how you'll know you're successful, and the Q&As. The Q&As are, many of you have signed up because you have questions. You have things that you want to get clarification. So hopefully our slides do that. But if you have questions that come up all the way through, pop them in the chat box. The invaluable Sandra will be looking through those, should keep an eye on the chats. I'll also be doing that if it doesn't take too much away from our webinar today. Ask them, feel free to ask. We'll answer as much as we can. If we can't, then we will hopefully direct you into a place that you can. So excellent. So we're gonna move in to why we're here. So many of you have either thought about coaching, thought about, hey, let's pursue something, or are in the middle of pursuing something, or have taken some training and you're saying, you know what is this credential thing all about? So you've likely seen how the International Coach Federation defines coaching: partnering with clients, customers, colleagues, or employees in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. Alison brought some great points about it being a really exciting time to be a coach. It's also a well-needed support system, whether you're doing it, you're taking a coach approach to your leadership, you're doing it as an internal coach, as an external coach, it changes the conversation. This is about having all hands on deck to change the conversation. You know, what would it be like if leaders approached employees, you know, on a strength-based, looked at strengths, how to develop someone's strengths, with curiosity, with active listening. How would that change outcomes? How would that change, you know, how people experience the workplace, how they experience, in some cases, life? This is about how do we support people to move further, to move faster, easier, quicker than they would without a coach, without a coaching conversation. So wanted to set that stage to say, okay, so here's why we need coaches. Here's why we need a coach approach to lay the foundation. So when we start talking about why hold a credential, it kind of says, okay, so here's an interest in coaching. Here's why we're all here. So what is it about a credential? What is it about, you know, what can it give you? And we focus on the International Coach Federation credentials. It's they're the most well-known. It's the most well-known gold standard, they call it, just because it's 35,000 members across 147 countries. So we focus on that. And for me, holding a credential, or for us holding a credential, the first value is credibility. The ICF sets really high standards. They provide certification for programs that have to go through a rigorous process to say, here, get the stamp of approval. They have a worldwide network of professionally trained coaches. So it gives you that, there's credibility that comes with it. The International Coach Federation does studies as part of their research to make sure that they're on top of the global trends. And in 2017, they worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers to do a global awareness survey. This is where they asked people across the world, anyone who's 18 and over, or professionals, to say, what do you know about coaching? What do you need from it? What do you see from it? And 83% of the respondents stated that it was important for their coach to hold a credential. It gives that credibility of, you know, you've gone through this and you know how to do this. That's one thing I think a credential helps, or a credential does. It also gives a bit of legitimacy. You know, meeting the requirements of the ICF, the 11 competencies, the code of ethics, the coaching practice rules. It gives that legitimacy to your experience as a coach. You may have it. You may be a fantastic coach and not have a credential. This seals that for other people. It gives the, you know, I say it saves some time. It saves a conversation about the hours and the experience that someone with a credential has, because someone sees the credential and it saves that conversation. A lot of organizations now are asking for it. I've worked both as an internal coach in an organization, as an external vendor, and I had the privilege of actually being someone who reviewed proposals for external coaches. More and more I've seen, it's been my experience, that organizations are saying you need to have a credential. Not necessarily a specific credential in terms of ACC, PCC, and we'll talk about that, but a credential, because for them it gives you that, it gives them that assurance that they're bringing in someone who knows what they're doing and knows how to support employees and knows how to support leaders and knows how to work with their organization. The other thing with a credential is differentiation. There are a lot of coaches. There's a lot of people saying they can coach. There's a lot of areas of coaching: health coaching, business coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching. I guess the descriptors are endless. That could potentially lead, in this emerging industry, to a commoditization of, well, everyone's a coach. What makes you different? And having a credential does that. It allows that differentiation between potentially, as you're growing your business, as you're doing a side in an organization, it differentiates. So excellent, excellent. I'm looking at the chat, making sure. So let's get into, and as I'm going through, Alison, if I've missed anything or if there's anything that that you want to highlight, just jump in. So now that I've shared what I and a lot of the community talks about the value of having a credential, what some of the information that we talk about in the next couple of slides is, now which one? How do you decide which one? It is a bit of a journey. So which one do you need? Which one do you want? Which one should you have? And before we do that, before you jumping into the action, as many of you who've sat in coaching conversations or have a coach approach, before you jump into action, we're going to step back and ask you some questions. Now, these are questions intended to lay the foundation for you in your journey as you're thinking about, should you pursue a credential? Which one? Here are some questions that then become a filter for you, then become, a filter through which you answer some of the questions about which one, what supports do I need? So the first one is, what is your vision for your career or business? Some of you talked about, wanting this to be, coaching to be a retirement option. Some are saying, you know what, I work in an organization and I want these skills. I'm not planning on having necessarily a company. That's part of that vision for your career, or a side company. So here's what do you want it to do? What do you want your coaching practice to look like? That will then drive what is next. That'll then drive, it's the destination. So that drives how you get there. The second, we talked a little bit about what credentialing could do, what the value is. This is about what the credential could do for you. Will it help you get clients? Will it strengthen your resume? Will it open up new opportunities? When you talk about some of you who are thinking of leveraging your experience when you retire, leveraging that experience, it's how will it open up the new opportunities for you? Some might be, again, a requirement for your actual position, a position that you may be applying for, a position that you might be creating. And then how will you use it? Again, some credentials you might use differently, some certifications you use differently. The third one's an interesting one as well to think about. It's, what time and resources can I invest? We will talk about the journey of a certification. It takes effort. It is an intentionality around it. And in some cases, there are more people that you need around your resources, programs, education. And there are different options. Coaching Out of the Box is an option that gives virtual, it's a virtual program. It is a certain amount of time, certain amount of resources. So asking yourself the question of, how much time can I spend? What works for me? I have a full-time job. I can't, all of those questions come in. You ask yourself the question of, what time and resources can I invest? And that leads you to, what's the best choice for me? So then you have these questions laying the foundation for then to create the next step of, okay, so what? How do I've decided on X, Y, and Z. I've decided I need a credential. What's next? Excellent. Now, again, I'm going to encourage anyone, if you have questions as we go through, jump them into the chat, and I will try to answer them.
And Rosa,
yes.
And Rosa, it's Alison here. I can't control myself. I'm going to jump in for a sec because this is really important. I can't tell you how many people I have spoken with over the years who have the most amazing backgrounds, all kinds of experience in business or in leadership or in healthcare or in all kinds of different sectors. And this, and even though, and they're professionals and they've got fabulous resumes and on and on and on. But here's the thing. When they come to coaching and they start learning these skills, such a valuable piece of gaining a credential and being committed to that is to build their own confidence. And I know it can sound kind of crazy because people have so many experiences. I know I did, but you'd think I knew nothing. But once I got that credential, for me, it just made that easier. It just made it easier to speak about it and to feel that I had that credibility, even though I was leveraging all that I brought to coaching, all my background, all my experience. Having that credential was just so, it just was a game changer for me. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you, Alison. No, that's a great point. Again, grounding. I think that's a word that I've used, and people have said, why a credential for you? For me, it grounds me into the, yes, I can do this. Bringing my experience in, it's like, what does it mean to be, oh yes, right. It's not telling people what to do. It's bringing that forward in them. How do we support that? Sometimes having those, touching base on that, grounding myself in that training, grounding myself in the competencies, allows for, whether it's the confidence to start something, or even in those, as you work with a client or you're working in an organization, sometimes kind of, those midpoint grounding places. So thank you for bringing that up. I think it's an important point. So now that, I'm not saying, you have these questions milling around in your mind, you're starting to think, hopefully you're starting to, like, your brain's starting to go and you're saying, you know what, I'm gonna start to do some of the homework to get that vision, to start getting the lens of credential, of whether it's right for you. One of those questions to ask then is, who can help me get there? What program is right for me? What program is right for me now? That's a really interesting, or that's a really powerful question, because your current state will allow, or current situation also dictates how much time you can spend, how much energy, what that looks like. There's a lot of programs, so it becomes which ones are recognized? Does it have a good reputation? How does it fit in with what I want to do? Does it allow for that continuing education? What supports does it allow for? To get me from where I am, get you from where you are now to where you want to be. To get you from not being credentialed, if you aren't, to pursuing the credential that will work the best for you, will give you the most. So let's get into the actual nitty-gritty information about credentialing. Again, I want to go back and say that we do look at the International Coach Federation credentials. They're the most well-known because of their worldwide presence. People kind of go there first. So we focus on those because of that credibility. So really the reason we do this webinar is, if any of you have gone to the Coach Federation website, there's a lot of information. And sometimes there could be a lot of information to go through. So what we hope to do is to give a bit of clarity on this. Give a bit of clarity on, here are all the options, so that when you're looking at it saying, which of the options is best for me, it's clearer. You, again, going back to the move quicker, move with, more effectively to where you want to be. So there are 3 paths, 3 credentials with paths underneath each of them: the Associate Certified Coach, the Professional Certified Coach, and the Master Certified Coach. Of the 35,000 International Coach Federation members, I want to say about, if I got this right, am I going to look, 22,000 hold a credential. So even in the ICF, there's, 2/3 will hold a credential. Again, that differentiation. Of those 22,000 credentials, ACC, the Associate Certified Coach, there's probably about 13,000. As we move up, you'll see the requirements, and I'll go through each of them. The PCC, it's about 8,600, 8,700 worldwide that have a PCC credential. And the Master Certified Coach credential is that top end. You'll see those requirements are higher, a lot more experience. There's about 880. We're lucky at Coaching Out of the Box because we actually have more than one. Alison is one. She's been coaching since, coaching began, I want to say. In this webinar, though, what we want to focus on, I'll focus on is the first two, the Associate Certified Coach and the Professional Certified Coach, to give you the clarity on what does it mean, what do I need, who's going to help me to get there. So with the Associate Certified Coach, you need 60 hours. I'll kind of read this and I'll get to Terry's question in a sec. 60 hours of coach training, 10 hours of mentor coaching. And a mentor coach, what the intention of having a mentor coach is to have someone who's done this, who's gone through the journey first, and can help you with, again, support you in that coaching conversation. Support you to coach you through getting your coaching legs, getting that, that practice under. You need 100 hours of coaching. So there's that practice of coaching. Many of us feel, that is the most powerful part, or one of the richest parts of the training. Specifically with those 100 hours, there needs to be at least 8 clients. And these hours have to be from the start of your coach training. So some of us have had coaching hours prior to our training. The requirement of the ICF is that these hours have to be from the inception of your training. 25 of those hours need to happen in within 18 months of applying. Now, I see that there's some chat, so I want to just go back, and I know that Sandra's probably answered, but I want to just share the question of how long do we have to complete the 60 hours? And if we start 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, some of the hours will expire, and the training don't expire. But again, I want to point out that the coaching practice hours have to be within a certain time frame. That again, they have to be done. 25 of those hours have to occur in the 18 months. So there's that time frame. Hopefully that that answers the question. Oh, we're not. For some reason, my computer seems to want to go backwards, and this is about the future. So again, back to the ACC, the 60-hour of training, the 10 hours of mentor training, the coaching practice. There are 3 paths within the ACC. One of them is the coach training program, where it's a specified program. The ICF will list which programs are, they call them ACTP. And then, I'm hoping, I'm going to read, gotta get my notes just so I don't screw this up, because it can be. There is the approved coaching specific training hours, or the ACSTH path. And in that path and the portfolio path, in the specific training hours path and the portfolio path, there's an added element where there's a requirement of a performance evaluation. The ICF wants to know that you can do this. So in some cases, they'll ask for a transcript, recording and a transcript of you coaching as part of that path. And in all of those paths, there is a assessment, a coach knowledge assessment. It's a test that every everyone who goes through credentialing has to pass at least once. You just have to do it once. You get 3 hours to do it. Oh, Carlos, great question. Carlos, sorry, and this is relevant, so I want to, would coaching out of the box help students get the 100 hours of coaching completed? I love how Sandra's on it. Thank you so much, Sandra. She does talk about that one of the programs in the Coaching Out of the Box Fast Track program. Builds in the element of peer-to-peer coaching, builds in the richness of those hours of practice, getting in there, feeling what it feels like to coach, using those skills, and those can be counted towards your training log, the 100 hours of coaching that you need. So thank you for that question, Carlos, and thank you, Sandra. So going back to those 100 hours, well, Carlos asked that question of 100 hours may seem like a lot of hours, and it is for a reason. There's that intensity of practice. Those coaching hours can be, of those, 75 of those 100 hours need to be paid hours. Paid hours. So I want to make sure, I want to kind of spend some time pulling that apart. Paid can, as Sandra talks about, paid is also reciprocal. So it's barter, whether it's I'll coach you, you coach me. Those are, that can be counted as hours if there's a reciprocal agreement. It's also bartering. There's some who'll use the I can pay you, you'll pay me for coaching in website design or some other services. So in the ICF, it gives you very, very great information about what can be barter, like it's what can be used, what can be defined as payment. But 75 of those 100-hour requirements need to be paid hours. I also want to address the question, even though it hasn't necessarily been asked, is the question of those of us who have coached within organizations. So you're going through, you're looking at the hours that you spent coaching in an organization. Can you use those? And the answer is, it depends. Again, within the requirement of it needs to be in the time frame, the practice needs to be in the time frame of your training. There's an added dimension to coaching in an organization that you can use those hours. However, those people who you are coaching cannot be direct reports. So if you're using a coach approach as part of your leadership and you're coaching an employee of yours, that can't be counted. That's just, again, part of your style of leadership. What can be counted, though, is as you're going through and you're saying, hey, I have these new skills, I'm developing these new skills, I want to be a coach. Who out there, as Alison kind of points out, the sooner you start coaching other people, you'll build some confidence. You'll be coaching different people. You ask others to say, hey, who wants to be coached? And a lot of people will be like, me. They can be within your organization. So there can be people in your organization that aren't in that direct reporting relationship that you can use to gain those hours. So I also, again, I want to make sure that I've covered everything because there are so many nuances to this. Alison, Sandra, have I covered everything in terms of the ACC part? I'll spend a little bit of time on the PCC, but I covered everything.
It's Alison here. There's always nuances. There's always questions that come up. But I do want to say something about this, and that is go for it first. In other words, target that first, because it will take more time to get your experience hours up. For example, for PCC, you'll need 500 hours. So focus on this is my opinion.
Yes.
Focus on the ACC first, unless you've already, I know there was a question earlier, unless you've already got, a lot of hours behind you that I'm unaware of. Mm-hmm. But for most people, that's where I say start, because it gets you in the flow, it gets you going. And I'm not sure Rosa emphasize this, but I want to also say, if you're coaching people in the work environment who are not your direct reports, and as part of your job, you are being compensated to coach, and that your boss would be able to supply a letter saying that, those hours can count. I know, Rosie, you were saying different things, but I just want to make sure that that's clear. If you're just doing that and nobody's saying, you know, this is what we want you to be doing in the organization. And you know, sometimes your boss isn't even aware. Go talk to your boss.
Yes.
And find out if they'd be willing to do that. Most of the time, I find people are very happy to do that because they see that as a real added value to the people in their organization, as well as, of course, it will matter as to the time you have available and so on. But I did want to emphasize that. So thanks for checking, Rosa.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Alison. Again, there's one of the wonderful things about the ICF is they want to keep that standard. So there are, you know, very specific rules around things. So thank you for that, because I didn't want to miss that. I want to make sure there's a couple of great questions in the chat. So thank you all. So one of them is, again, please tell us more about mentor coaching. And I want to go back to that. Like I said, the intention of mentor coaching is to have those who've gone before bring back that support to those who are just, you know, starting in that. And so a mentor coach is someone who is at the level of coach that you are. Now I'm going to see if I can get this right. They must hold a credential, and they have to be at the level that you're going for or higher. So if you are going for an ACC, if you're going for your ACC credential, your mentor coach needs to be an ACC, have at least gone through one cycle of an ACC, because they renew every 3 years. So it needs to be either an ACC or higher. Again, with that, someone who's gone before and brings back the skills. The other thing is, on the ICF website, they have a document that talks about the competencies that a mentor coach needs to have, and so they have to meet those skills as well. So hopefully that answers the question about mentor coaching. One of the great things about our fast track program at Coaching Out of the Box is, within that fast track program, we've designed it so that you get 7 of those hours already designed in the program, so that you have met, you're kind of further ahead by meeting that requirement. Pamela, you asked a question about specific skills that are taught when getting certified. If you're talking about the programs, the different programs that you can take on that certification journey, those skills, now I'm going to again ask for that support if needed. Those skills are around what actual skills do you need to coach? What processes, or, you know, there's different approaches that are based, and, you know, those skills are based in the competencies that are dictated by the ICF. I'll just go with our program. It gives you here's the skills that you need. Here's a process. Here's what, not a linear process, but here's what it looks like. And what's great about our Coaching Out of the Box program is it also dedicates time to who you need to be doing your work on what you need to show up as a coach, that confidence place, doing some of I always say to my clients, I can't ask my clients to do anything that I'm not willing to do, or that a question I'm not willing to answer. So there's that pre-coach work. We call it personal groundwork. For coaching, that's part of our program. So hopefully that talks about the specific skills. Each program is different, but I know for ours, they're based on the ICF credentials. The program is set up so that you walk out confidently, knowing the difference between coaching other things, having the skills, knowing who you be in order to support. Gosh, these are great questions. Thank you so much. You make this richer. Talking about how does that need to be tracked. The ICF, Coaching Out of the Box, we do, and there's a form that you can track your hours. And if in some cases you can't disclose someone's name, you'll need a reference letter from a person familiar with what you're doing, so it lines that up. My understanding, I know when I did this like moons ago, you needed to submit that record to the ICF. Now I think it's you say to them that you have those hours, and they can and keep that documentation, again based on the spreadsheets that you can use, and then you keep that so they can come back and say, show me this hour, show me that. So Sandra, I know that you're probably monitoring this. I'm just aware of time. Is there anything that you've seen in the chat that I've missed that we want to get to before we I go a little bit into PCC and then move on to the next one?
I think we are all clear in the chat. If I have missed one of your questions, please feel free to ask it again. If we don't get to it during the webinar, I will certainly send you an email with that information after the fact.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sandra. And again, thank you all. One of the great things about webinars like this is because there's so much information, we try to give that. And then you bring the richness of, hey, tell me about this. Oh, wait a second, give me more information on this, because it's real to you. It kind of gives me that sense of this isn't just, hey, some theory of some information. I spent a lot of time on the ACC for a reason. I think that's the starting points. Alison says wonderfully, if you're thinking of a credential, start there. Look at what you already have, what you need, and get one. Like I mentioned, now it's become something that people are looking for. I'm looking for someone to hold a credential. I'm looking for, if you're working with an organization or within one, so start there. Again, a little bit about the PCC, it's just that next step. Very similarly, still has, needs some coach training. You'll see there's a bit higher. There's a degree of wanting continuous, continuous development all the way through. The ICF is very aware of keeping as Covey would say, sharpening the saw. The 10 hours of mentor coaching. And with the PCC, what ups the game a little bit is the 500 hours of coaching experience. 450 of that can be paid, again, with those paid letter or the descriptors with at least 25 clients, and the 50 hours must be within the 18 months prior to submitting the application. The one thing I talked a little bit about is that coach knowledge assessment, is that test. One of the great things that in our fast track program, we dedicate a course just to helping people understand those, seeing coaching through the lens of those core competencies that the ICF sets out. So it grounds people, it grounds our participants in that, and they feel more confident in taking that assessment. It doesn't go through the question, it's not that, it's just that let's ground you in what this is and make you feel more confident. So I'm just looking at the time, and I want to get to some of the other stuff. So I'm going to move on to talk about coaching out of the box, and I've talked a little bit about some of the stuff, but I'm going to repeat it. So when you're talking about going for a credential and you're looking around saying, so what supports do I need to get there? And coach training is that place to start of how do I gain those skills? What skills do I get? So here's what differentiates coaching out of the box. It's that cost effectiveness. When you're looking at what resources can you allocate, time resources, energy resources, financial resources, looking at a program that is easier on the it's easier on the pocketbook, makes that decision, can lend itself to making that decision. So again, that cost-effective place we start. The live and interactive, the live virtual interactive is also one of those places. Our programs are all virtual. And one of the wonderful things that I've noticed is how much you can get from a virtual community. It makes it easier for everyone to come in, depending on where you are time-wise, where you are energy-wise, and you still create those relationships. You still create that community, that support as you move through our fast track program. Going back to the actual, specifics, we are approved for the coach-specific training hours programs. So that does two things. One, again, leg up when you're talking about the credentialing, that getting you closer to the credential than without that. It also talks a little bit about the rigor behind our program. We've been approved by the ICF. That means we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to get the program to a place where, again, people are feeling confident as they leave. They're feeling comfortable as they leave. They know they can do this, and they've created a support. I want to talk a little bit about the proven program, the proven results. One of the things that I think is not only in the testimonials of people who've gone through, which you can read if you go on our website. I encourage you to do that. There's a lot more information in a way that you can grab what you need. In that, you will see that, now I don't know, I know it was very recently. Coaching Out of the Box presented to the Harvard Medical School Institute of Coaching in McLean Hospital about work that was done with an organization, concentrated participants. And I want to say, Alison, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say there was 5,000, 7,000 participants. And it talks about, did you just come on?
Sorry, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I absolutely can. Absolutely can.
Okay. Yeah, we recently presented key findings, and we have a guide that you can download from our website on what happened there. We presented to Harvard Medical School, McLean Hospital, and Institute of Coaching the top qualitative findings that were determined by an external consultant, nothing to do with us, by having focus groups internally, meetings and so on, that we had absolutely nothing to do with. They did this all themselves, this large organization. And these were the findings that came out of it that are in our report. But I'll just very quickly say that they were all connected with our, sorry, now I lost my train of thought there. They were all connected to the ICF competencies. And what came out was improved listening, improved communication, improved ability to give feedback, improved conflict resolution, positively impacted relationships, team dynamics and team communication, and ability. Now, this is so critical. Ability to engage in conversations that are solutions focused and promote accountability. And that was based on our coaching model. And this was with over 7,000 people and growing to this day. And this is why we're so excited about coaching too, because it's a difference that can be made when we're having these kinds of conversations. And I always say, what if you and the people that you work with, or the people that you coach, you experience those, and there were other findings as well, but those were the top 7. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm probably going on too much, but I just wanted to throw that in because I think it's really important to know that. And I think these are fabulous questions that are coming up as well.
Thank you, Alison. And the reason I didn't want to lose that, again, there's this, in the guide, if you're really interested, again, go to the website. It's among some wonderful resources. You'll find a copy of the presentation information where it talks about the program and the skills used, the process used. These are proven to work. These are proven to help people change a conversation, change a culture, make an impact. So that's another thing that when you talk about coaching out of the box, the return on the investment has been proven. I want to address something that'll kind of there's a question, and Sandra, you've wonderfully answered Scott's question about In the interactive online program, the fast track programs, the different courses, what percentage of time are we listening and how much are we participating and practicing? And I think that's an important question to bring up if anyone hasn't seen it in the chat, because it underscores something else that may not be in the slide, is the coach approach that's taken. It's a very intentionally designed program where me and other facilitators, we take a coach approach to our facilitation, understanding the richness of using those skills and you know, having people practice them and making it interactive. So we will do, you know, it's top of mind for us to make it as interactive as possible, to give space to use the skills, to, you know, have coaching demos, live coaching demos, in the moment laser coaching. To make it as interactive and rich and experiential as possible. So it was a great question. I didn't want to lose that. So the, you know, another reason of why Coaching Out of the Box, the fast track program, again, not only is it proven results, over 18,000 people. Now just think about this. Over 18,000 participants in 38 countries have gone through our program. That tells you the reach. That also, I think, speaks to the proven results that it works. People are seeing value. They're feeling a comfort level. They're feeling confident walking out. So, you know, that gives a little bit of the reach and the power and the credibility of the program. Also, the high, you know, the facilitators. We come from a broad range of backgrounds. And areas we're passionate about. So you'll have that in the program. The people who deliver it are highly skilled and highly passionate about what they do. I talked about the confidently, going through a program where you're then going to practice your skill and then go for a certification in order to really start doing this and be part of these conversations and lead these coaching conversations, whether in an organization or not. Having that confidence, having that grounding of feeling that you know what you're doing, that is part of how our program is, our fast track program is designed. So I want to say that's all of those things. It's the combination of all of those things that give you a sense of when you're looking at, yes, you know, you're saying, you know what, credentialing is where I want to go. I've looked at this is where I want to do. Who's around to support you? You're looking at the different programs. This combination of things, I think, is where the richness of the Coaching Out of the Box Fast Track program. Excellent, Scott. Great point. Great point about the live classroom versus online. And with an intentional program like the fast track program, that the different courses have all been in that mindset of how do we enrich the experience? How do we make it alive? And how do we give people the experience in the space, has been woven in. So thank you for that. Just to start, again, the gnomes aren't working. So again, many of you have likely been in a coaching conversation where it becomes the, where are you? Where do you want to go? Who's there to support you? And now we're talking about what's next. You know, there's a couple things that you can do. If you're saying, I've gone through some of the stuff, great information, Rosa, I have more questions. Or hopefully the statement is, you got me thinking. Is we actually have a fast track program beginning March 11th. So if you're saying, you know what, sign me up, let's do this. I'm lucky enough to be one of the co-facilitators in the March 11th, the first 555 course that starts off your fast track. One of the things that you saw each of the credentials needed was that the knowledge assessment prep or knowledge assessment. I talked about the fact that we have an actual course that helps people, whether you're going through our fast track, or whether you're looking at our course saying, you know what, I need this support. That starts March 5th. We also help organizations. We've been in organizations providing this training. So there's the contact information if you're saying, my organization can use this, not just me as a, you know, going for my credential. it can be and. Sandra talked about scheduling a call with her, knowledgeable about the programs and can answer some of the questions or most of the questions or all of the questions. There's a link to scheduling a call with Sandra to have a conversation, because it's all about the conversation. And the last, for information about the Fast Track program, our individual programs. Some of those resources that I talked about, whether it's the presentation or other like resources, coaching resources, drop by the website, look around. There's a bunch of information. So if you can't find, oh, okay. You know what, Sharon, you ask a question about the second course, or you talk about timing of courses. And I will encourage anyone, if you're thinking about, you know, taking a course or looking into registering for a fast track or an individual course, and those dates you're like, ugh, doesn't work for me. Look at, you know, go onto the website, look at the other courses. We have an intake starting in May. And look at what you need and what works for you in terms of timing. Because one of those wonderful things, one of the benefits of having a virtual program and looking at it is we have different times that we start our intake. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to have a conversation with Sandra. So I'm hoping, I'm looking at the time because I want to leave some time. I want to leave a few minutes at the end. One, to allow Alison to say, if I missed anything, please jump in. And to make it back about you, to, you know, the thread of what do you need? What supports do you need? What resources? I'm going to ask you to answer this question, this next question in the chat box. So what are you walking away with as a result of today's webinar? What's different for you? And, you know, if something is different, what are you going to do with it? So, you know, feel free to add that into the chat box. I'd love, you know, I'd love to hear what you're walking away with. If there's any other questions, I'd love for you to put them into the chat. Very grateful for your those questions, because it makes for the richness. So, you know, if anyone, you know, is walking away with something that they'd like to share, throw it in. As you're doing that, I'll kind of ask Alison or Sandra if I've missed anything. Ooh, love that, Nancy. More curiosity about getting a credential. I will give serious consideration to getting, you know, to getting your ACC. I'm assuming. Considering next steps. Again, there's thinking. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Alison, Sandra. Is there any last thing?
Well, yes, and
I love and.
Rosa,
yes.
I want to acknowledge you for delivering this class and for taking this on, because we're growing, and I need and Rosa has taken this on for the first time, and I think, you know, it's not for the faint of heart. Anyway, you've done a great job, and I really want to acknowledge you for that, and specifically how you were allowing for time for people to ask questions and so on. So awesome, absolutely awesome.
Thank you, Maureen.
Another thing I want to say, and I can see these comments coming along, but here's the thing. I've been in coaching for 20 plus years. I've been involved in 2 different universities, creating their executive and leading their executive coaching programs, plus all of the executive coaching and mentor coaching and so on that I've done. And one of the things that I say to people who are looking, because there's loads of programs out there, and where should I start? Number one, you remember I said, go for the ACC, get that one. Number 2, a lot of people that get into coaching don't know what they don't know. And for some of you, it may be, you know, the programs can range in price up to $30,000, $40,000 you can take to take a coaching program. Trust me, it's a lot of money. You got it and you want to do that, fantastic, and can put the time. But here's the deal. This is a journey. This is a start. You start with this. You get your grounding. You get to the sweet spot of coaching. You learn those skills and you gain your confidence and what is required of you to be a great coach. Then you can keep honing and shifting and developing yourself even further, because there's loads of fantastic programs, ours, of course, but others as well. and you may veer off into umpteen different directions. This way, you've got off to a great start. You've got your ACC, and you can grow from there. Because once you get into coaching, trust me, if you love it, you'll be in it. You'll be in it for quite a while.
Alison, thank you. I want to thank you for, again, you bring such wisdom and passion to it. So thank you for sharing that and sharing those bits. Thank you to Sandra for managing the chat and answering some fabulous questions. Lastly, to thank you all. The richness of this webinar was those questions and the curiosity that you brought. And my hope is that that this has brought forward things that you're saying, you know what, I'm going to think more on this and I'm going to do something about it. Again, whatever that action is, I encourage you and I wish you the best. I'm looking at the time and we've come to the top of the hour, and that was really quick. As I mentioned, you'll get an email with the recording of the webinar. Feel free to reach out if there are questions that come to you afterwards, but I wanted to send some gratitude out for joining us and for sharing and for sharing your questions and sharing your thoughts. And with that, I bid you all a wonderful day and all the best as you further your coaching experience, further your coaching confidence, and hopefully, after it fits, get your credential. So good luck. Bye, everybody.